And this is what a box and whisker plot looks like, and it's a way of organizing your data to show your quartiles, your range, and your median. So what happens is the box in the middle is your interquartile range. The line in the middle of the box is your median. The outer edges of your box show quartile 1 and quartile 3. The end of the whisker on the left shows where your minimum value is, and the end of your whisker on your right shows your maximum value. So here's our first example. We've got a box and whisker plot there with 32 students, and those numbers are listed. So right from here, we can tell that our median mark is this line in the middle at 3. So the median of all 32 students is 3. Upper quartile, that value would be 6, because that's the edge of the box on the right. Interquartile range, well, since quartile 1 is 2 and quartile 3 is 6, our interquartile range would be 4. And now we can estimate how many students received a mark greater than 6. In other words, how many students are above quartile 3? Well, that would be 25%. And if we know that there's 32 students in total, an estimate would be that there are 8 students that have scored higher than 6. Here's our second question. I'm going to get you to read through it and try it on your own. Yes?
The last question, we have to put approximate.
Put approximate sign in there because we are approximating, yes. Quick check how you did. The median is 18. A should equal 10. B should equal 44. In the brackets is sort of the work that I did to figure out those numbers. Since I knew the interquartile range was 20, that means there has to be a distance of 20 between quartile 1 and quartile 3. So 30 minus 20 is 10. And the range is 40. And since our smallest value is 4, our largest value would have to be 44. Now we're going to learn how to put these into our calculator. So I'd like you to put all of these values into your calculator into list 1. So you've already learned how to use the 1var stats to get your median, your mean, and your quartiles are listed there as well. What we can also do is go to our stat plot, second y equals. I'm going to go to my first one, which is already turned on. And instead of having a histogram, I'm going to highlight the box and whisker plots. Okay, we only have data right now in list 1. We don't have a frequency in list 2, so I'm going to change my frequency back to 1. Choose whatever color. Now if you hit grab, it may or may not appear on your screen because of the window setting. Currently, mine is not appearing. If you hit your zoom button and zoom to number 9 for statistics, it should appear. How did I get it back to 1? I just went, so I'll go back there. I just went to frequency and typed 1 over top of list 2. Oh yeah, to get to the stat plot, second y equals. Now there's our box and whisker plot. To get the data off of there, if you push your trace button, it will automatically connect to your box and whisker plot. It's telling us our median is 6.7. If you use your arrow keys, you can go to quartile 3, to our maximum, to quartile 1, and to your minimum. So I've got that picture right there. When drawing your box and whisker plot, you can draw that and then label your values at each of the key points. So for this next example, we are going to type all of these values into our calculator. This time we have a frequency. So our goals will go into list 1, and our frequency will go into list 2. So I'm hoping this is how many goals a hockey player scored in a week of playing games, rather than students' goals for their IB mark in math. Because then there would be 3 students who have a goal of getting a 0. I don't think you can get a 0. I think 1 is the lowest. You can get a 0? If you don't show up, you can get a 0. So that would not be a good goal. So here we have showing the data being put into our calculator. You could use 1-var stats, or you could use your box and whisker plot. If you use 1-var stats, you just need to scroll down, and your quartile 1, median, and quartile 3 will be listed. So from there, you could find out your interquartile range is 2. How many people used the box and whisker plot? Because we just did that, right? So if you did a box and whisker plot, now when you go to your calculator and have that data in, you have to make sure on your stat plot, second y equals, on your stat plot here on number 1, you have to make sure you change your frequency to show list 2. So we have to be adept with our calculator to know sometimes we need to change things back and forth depending on if we just have one list of data or if we have group data like this one. So if you went to your box and whisker plot, so let's just pretend we go back to our previous screen. Well, from your box and whisker plot, you could just use the trace button to find quartile 1 and quartile 3 from before. Here is a set of data. The nice thing about this data is it's already arranged for us in ascending order. And if we count how many terms there are 15 in total. 15 is a nice number. 15 is a nice number because if you add 1 and divide by 2, it works out perfectly to 8. And the 8th one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, I've circled in blue because that's the position of our median. And if we do 15 plus 1, it divides nicely by 4, and that tells us the position of quartile 1. 15 plus 1 divided by 4 is 4, and sure enough, in green, the 19 is the 4th one, so we know that our quartile 1 is going to be 19. If you take the 15 plus 1 divided by 4, which is the position of quartile 1, and multiply it by 3, you will get the position of quartile 3, which is 12. And the 31, which is circled in green, is the position, is the 12th term. What's that? The minimum is really tough in this case. So to write down all the position of the numbers, our minimum is 18. I just had to see that to figure that out. B will be 19, that's circled in green. C is 23, that's circled in blue. 31, the next green. And E, another tough one to figure out what the maximum value is, happens to be 36. Interquartile range, well, that's just the distance or the difference between quartile 3 and quartile 1, which is 12. All right, I'd like you to try this one. This is interpreting your histogram and thinking about quartiles, medians, and means. See how you did. Writing down the values of P and Q. Well, from here we could count that there's 17 in between 65 and 75, and between 95 and 105, there are 11 students. The median class. Right? So if we want to find the position of the median, it's going to be the 47th person. Where does the 47th person happen? Well, we have 7 people here. Now we're up to 21. Now we're up to 38. And when we hit up to 85, we get up to 48. So the 47th person is going to be in between 75 and 85. And we call it a median class because we're not looking at a specific number, but a range of numbers. How do we estimate the mean? Well, if we could put all this data into our calculator, and our calculator would estimate the mean. If you did that, how do you write a median class into your calculator? You choose the mid value. So you would put, for 45 to 55, you'd put 50. Happens 7 times. 60 happens 14 times. If you do it by hand, you do the same thing. You say 50 happens 7 times, 60 would happen 14 times. Add all of those up to get a total. We have 93 students, so we would find that our median class is 79.1. So I will give you 2 puzzles right now that you can solve, well, and see if you fit somewhere in this time range. The first one I think might actually take more time. You have 7 numbers. The mode is 7. Quartile 1 is 7. Quartile 3 is 11. The median is 8. The mean is 9. And your range is 14. They are all positive whole numbers. That's puzzle number 1. Puzzle number 2 is something completely different. Obviously, 70 times 72 is not equal to 71. But if you take that dot and put it somewhere on that equation, you can make that equation true. Where does the dot go?